Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel, Jamboree Chemistry, which is the new name replacing Superstar's Guide to Victory. I wanted to change the title because I want to kind of change the direction of this channel into a more general focus of Mario Party with Jamboree and Superstars, and I want to make videos that highlight different strategies and aspects of both. Today's video is going to focus on the different boards from Super Mario Party Jamboree. I'm going to rank and review each one and kind of give a little more insight as to why I like each one and why they are where they are in my rankings. So, without further ado, let's begin. At number 7, I have Mario's Rainbow Castle. Not surprisingly, a linear board from the first ever Mario Party game couldn't be revamped enough through modern design to effectively capture my interest. The main problem with this board is not only that it is linear, but that it's linear without even having the star as a guarantee at the end of each lap. This makes it virtually impossible to accumulate stars in the 12-turn Pro Rules game. This design could actually work if there was some control that could be exercised over whether or not you were going to get the star when advancing towards the end of a lap. But the Tower Turner, the main item that affects the tower turning gimmick, does not even provide a fixed outcome, as the direction in which the tower will turn is randomized. This completely ruins the value of this item and makes spending 20 coins on it a waste of your money. The funny thing is, I think this board could actually kind of work if not for the randomness of the Tower Turner. The rest of the elements, while basic, are effective enough to provide a fun Mario Party experience. At number 6, I would have to put Roll'em Raceway. This was a good attempt by the MP crew, at least in regards to theming. Unfortunately, the board falls flat in almost every other category. The layout is overly simplistic, the mechanics don't exactly work the best, and there are only 2 star portals. Also, I'm not exactly sure what the point of the turbo dice is, as you pass everything without getting to capitalize on any of it. I suppose it's like just to get a little closer, but you don't get to buy a star, you don't get to buy an item, and you don't get to steal an opponent's buddy. I think it has something to do with the number of laps you accumulate, but it doesn't even make sense to sacrifice everything else just for this one benefit. Still though, the items are cool, and the fill-em-up shop near the end of each lap is a cool concept. And I do like how you have to weigh the risk-benefit of either taking the coins from passing the lap or going through to the item fill-em-up shop and not getting the coins at the lap. Really kind of neat job. But again, kind of like a basic component and not really my favorite weight management type of decision. At number 5, I would have Mega Wiggler's Tree Party. This is another fairly simplistic layout, but there are a few more components added into directional decision-making. One cool feature is getting to cross over the Mega Wiggler in the center of the board, and the way he either just moves or moves and changes his spaces if he gets angry. The items are just okay on this board, but the ambiance makes it an overall positive experience. At number 4, I would have Goomba's Lagoon. Right off the bat, I have to say the music for this board is fantastic. It perfectly encapsulates the island theme and ties it to the Mario world. It's become my new favorite Mario track. As for the board itself, it's certainly an interesting layout. The mechanics of the high and low tides turn it into a methodical game of having to use your items to be in the right space at the right time. I will say that this feature makes it difficult to traverse the entire board in 20 turns or less. I haven't yet played a full 30 turns on this board, so maybe I'd have a different experience. I also don't love the fact that the volcano exploding only rains down golden Goombas. It could lead to a nice coin inflation for 1 or more players, but with the way it was advertised in the trailer, I was expecting something with slightly higher stakes, such as the result of the Bowser Beam in Spaceland. I like the different items available at the multiple item shops on this board, and I think the addition of the tide shell to raise or lower the tides is a creative feature. I also like the different event spaces on this board and the specific events associated with each. At number 3, I would have Western Land. This is an excellent return to form for Jamboree by remastering the classic board from Mario Party 2. While I don't specifically remember playing this board in Mario Party 2, as it's been a while since I played Mario Party 2 in general, I will say that this board has a great layout and a lot of cool features. While thematically it is nothing like Spaceland, mechanically it is very similar, in the sense that the inside paths provide safety, while the outside paths present the risk of being transported to a different location at any moment. The only difference is that there is no feature that presents a similar risk to the Bowser Beam, so there is no real sense of danger on any of the inside paths, such as the diagonal paths in Spaceland. This is a slight knock on this board as compared with Spaceland, but the multiple item shops and the other features more than make up for it. I also like the steamer tickets that you can buy to manipulate the train. I don't love the fact that the train movement is random, in the sense that it can move forwards or backwards depending on a random dice roll. I think a better way to provide this variability would be to have the movement change at a fixed number of turns. This would help with strategic planning and decision-making. They could then also introduce items to manipulate this feature, adding to the fun of item purchasing and usage. Overall, this is just a minor complaint. A more fundamental issue I have with this board is that it seems that the train is too easily accessible, and players are being transported to the starting space entirely too often. This makes it more difficult to traverse the entirety of the board and experience all of the cool features it provides. A better way to do this may be to only have the train knock players to the start upon somebody landing on the event space and have it take a different path if it's just moving with somebody using it at the station. I don't know, I'm just kind of thinking out loud. I'm just looking for a way for it not to move players back as often, so I think that might be a way to accomplish that. I know it seems like I'm bashing this board. I promise that I'm not. I just think it's slightly missed out on reaching its full potential. Still though, this is an overall great board with a lot of cool gameplay mechanics, and in my opinion, the third best board in the game. At number 2, I have Rainbow Galleria. This is a classic design in terms of layout, and they did a masterful job interconnecting all the pathways while using the escalator and elevator theming to connect all 3 floors of the shopping mall. There are a lot of cool features on this board, including stamp stations to collect stamps that can be exchanged for coins, a lottery station in which you can draw balls that are worth coins depending on how many items you've purchased, a thrift store that will buy an item back for you for double the price, a last place item shop that can only be accessed by the player currently in last place, and 5 additional item shops, each with their own unique collection of items. They really capitalized on the shopping mall theme by including all of these features that incorporate buying items and making exchanges for coins. Unfortunately, this is the extent of the creativity surrounding this board, and the point at which it begins to fall flat. Unlike most Mario Party boards, there is no overarching event that affects the entire board or any of the other players when an event space is landed on. I feel that this is a missed opportunity because using the board's main gimmick to significantly impact the outcome of your status, as well as the status of your opponents, is part of what makes Mario Party a fun and interactive experience. When you're only landing on an event space to purchase an item or affect the status for yourself, it diminishes some of the value that is usually added by having these more comprehensive events. To make things worse, I feel that these events were used in a way that ultimately interferes with the game's main draw, which is the unique item shops. The fact that 4 of the 6 item shops require landing on an event space to access means that players are accessing these shops extremely infrequently, which kind of ruins the entire point of having them. The way this board is designed sets up a situation for all of these unique items to be used frequently and to have them be a consistent part of the game. Being able to access the shops to purchase them should be part of basic planning upon taking a lap around the board, with dice rolling and coin equity being the limiting factors that would stop you from executing your plan. There's no need to add the additional roadblock of having to land on an event space to access these shops. especially when there is only one shop that sells custom dice blocks, and you would more often than not be in a position in which you would want to or need to use it to acquire a star without the possibility of being able to land on one of these event spaces on the back end of the range. This means that most of the time, the only situation in which you're landing on one of these event spaces to access one of these shops is based on luck, which significantly reduces the fun of the game. What I think they could have done instead would be to incorporate the event spaces with the flash sale. What I actually think they could have done would be having the flash sale operate on a 1-turn or 2-turn cycle, such as the signs in Woody Woods or the tides in Goomba's Lagoon. They could then have the flash sale be activated or deactivated by someone landing on the event space. The way the flash sale currently operates is okay, but only having it once every 5 turns, with no way to affect when or how often it occurs, diminishes from the fun of planning around it, as well as the overall impact it has on the game. I think another missed opportunity from this board was the easiness of access to all of the floors. I think having some sort of directional roadblock, like a womp or a skeleton gate, in a couple different areas of the board might have added to some of the fun of having to plan around how to access these different pathways, but overall that's just kind of a minor complaint. I still think the bigger overall flaw of the board was the lack of the overall gimmick affecting everyone in the game. Still though, this board is really cool. It has a lot of cool features. I love the design of the 3 floors. I love all the interconnecting pathways. It incorporates a lot of directional decision making, a lot of item purchasing decisions, and overall, it's a really fun board with a lot of opportunities for chaos. At number 1, I have King Bowser's Keep. This is probably the most internally controversial ranking on my list. This board is a lot of fun, but at the same time immensely flawed. The actual design of the board is a really neat concept, but unfortunately the implementation of the features creates a high level of variance that has the potential to negate the execution of correctly making decisions throughout the game. There are 2 main issues that highlight this criticism. The first is the increasing number of Bowser spaces throughout the game. I really like the design of having safe spaces on the outside of the board with no Bowser spaces, while having a danger zone in the middle with multiple Bowser spaces. It creates a situation where you have to plan item purchasing and usage for both offensive and defensive purposes. The main issue is that the number of Bowser spaces continues to increase throughout the entirety of the game. This then creates a situation where it is nearly impossible to avoid Bowser spaces toward the end, and multiple players are losing multiple stars and or massive amounts of coins in the final few turns. This vastly changes the results of everything that's been accumulated over the course of the first 85% of the turns. The game is just less fun when nothing before the last 3 turns seems to matter all that much. This is a problem that I think could be solved. They could either A, have a fixed number of Bowser spaces throughout the game and simply have them rotate around the square to keep the same level of chaos, as well as incorporate the same level of planning and gameplay strategy. Or B, keep the increasing number of Bowser spaces as a feature, but have the number reset to baseline after a set number of turns, so that the level of variance remains somewhat under control. I think either of these options could work, although I'm slightly partial towards the first one. The second main issue I have with this board stems from the title itself. I don't love the idea of having a keep, in which any player can open it at any moment in the game and receive an open-ended amount of stars and coins. Most of the time this isn't an issue because either no one opens the vault, or there isn't a game-changing amount of equity inside when someone does open it. But really, just the idea of having this level of variance is a fundamental contrast to everything I love about playing a board game. Even with King Boo in Horrorland, there's a fixed number of stars that you can receive through this gimmick, and everyone knows it going in, so it is something for which you can prepare from the start. You also have to pay 150 coins to receive the reward, so it somewhat balances out anyway. I also think this is a solvable problem. They could keep the keep concept, as it does add value to have a gimmick that ties into the theme of the board. However, they could make it so that there are different levels to the variance. For example, they could make it so that you could receive a small reward by guessing an easier combination, and make the larger reward a more difficult combination. With all of that being said, I want to reiterate that this board is a blast to play. The design of the outside zones being safe, with the inside zone being a danger zone, is a great concept. The direction of the danger zone changes once every few turns, when someone lands on an event space, or when someone uses a switch stop. These mechanics work perfectly within the framework of the design and really add to planning and decision making. The placement of the item shops really works, with one being placed right at the start for easy access, one being placed in the top left corner, requiring getting off the danger zone on the left side, and one being placed in the middle of the danger zone as a bit of a reprieve if you find yourself stuck. It should be noted that the item shop in the top left corner is a Koopa shop with better items, whereas the other two shops are comic shops. So to get to the Koopa shop, you have to use your items to be in the right place at the right time. The placement of Boo is quite good, where you can access him in the back whether you get off the danger zone on the left or the right side. But the only way to get to the Koopa shop and Boo on the same lap is by having a skeleton key, so it puts a limit on how quickly you can acquire equity. There are also two Mecha Koopas and a rotating coin wheel to add to a healthy level of board variance, as well as a second Boo behind a skeleton gate. Lastly, there is an alternate warp pipe which takes you directly to the middle of the board, which can be good or bad depending on the situation. Overall, this board is a lot of fun and definitely a worthy installment of the Mario Party franchise. Well everyone, that concludes this ranking. I hope you all enjoyed the video. Stay tuned for more content in the near future. I hope to be making a lot of different videos on new Jamboree content, as well as some of the old Superstars content. So, if you're a fan of Jamboree, you can pay attention to the new Jamboree videos. If you like Superstars more, stay tuned for that. But I'll be making videos on both, and I hope to see you all soon.